This is Christmas. And
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to Hanging with the Hayters. Kay, this is a special time for us.
It is, because it's the Christmas season.
It is the Christmas season, and this is really our official Christmas show. And, Kay, I realized that, Christmas is coming. This is December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, if you will.
Yes, it is.
And the Christmas is coming later. My understanding is it's still the 25th, Kay, and that falls on a Sunday.
It is. So we're doing the show on the 7th, but don't get panicky. You still got a few times to
Now,
to
those
stop.
of you who happen to read my article in the Sunday's paper, I mentioned that we were going to do a show involving Christmas story reading, audio stories.
You have been writing fictional short stories for how long now?
Well, the first one was in 91, and so I could do the math, but there's been a short story, I believe, every year since then, so that's a bunch. And what we did is we picked out a couple to read now. I think that may be as many as we can get in this hour, but we will see.
Okay.
So many responsibilities. And the thing is, I just did this one time back in 91 thinking, wow, that's just so cute. And somebody actually made an audio out of the first one I did, and sent it to me on an old cassette tape. And
he
had
remember
music
that.
behind it, and it sounded really good. So I thought today we would do that with just a couple of stories. And
And I just want to tell our listeners, if all these characters are fictional, so it's all made up, and if it happens to be similar to something in your life, it's just coincidence.
Yeah, it's a coincidence. Anyway, this first one I'm going to read, Kay, we'll do the second one. And this was back in, when was this? 2008 I did this, and it'll be a story called A Christmas Eve Walk with Ed and Mason. Too many aunts and uncles, too many cousins, too much giggling, too much family. And it wasn't even his. Oh, and remember the time Fran tried to climb? That's all it took to kick off another round of laughter. The laughing and constant gabbing started the minute he entered the front door and continued through supper, into dessert, and beyond. At one time he counted 5 conversations at the dinner table at once. Who the heck was listening? Somebody had to have been, because how else could you explain all the laughter? The living room, the kitchen, dining room, there was no escape. The night belonged to family. In truth, he was jealous. He was an only child whose parents had decided to take a cruise during the holidays. They'd celebrate Christmas with their son when they returned. So it was perfectly logical for him to accept an invitation from Allison, his girlfriend, to attend her family's Christmas gathering. It was logical. Logic. Bah. After a couple of grueling hours, he casually made his way to the back guest room, where he located his jacket beneath a pile on the bed. He walked down the hallway and out the front door, careful not to draw attention. The cold hit him instantly. He folded his arms and leaned against the porch railing. He was tempted to go back inside, but wanted to tough it out as long as possible. He was looking at the lame Frosty display on the lawn across the street with ice all over it. Anyway, he suddenly heard, "So, which one are you?" He hoped his frightened jerk appeared comically exaggerated. To add credence to the false notion, he quickly assumed the martial arts pose. "You about scared me to death." The old man sitting on the porch swing smiled, but just barely. "So?" "Oh, I'm with Allison, your granddaughter." "I know who she is." Well, yeah. Anyway, I'm her boyfriend. Date. She invited me. I'm Mason." He walked over and shook hands with the party's supposed host. "So, you gonna marry her?" Am I gonna? Sheesh, no. At least not after all this. Man, I'm pretty much invisible here. Yeah, it's a bit much to take, isn't it? That's why I'm out here. Through the years, I've pushed Grandpa to the side. I apparently repeated my old stories a few too many times. I'm out of the loop nowadays, so I thought I'd come out here to sulk. Yeah, I think we're both a bit superfluous. Superfluous? Yes, sir. It means without purple. I know what the word means, smarty pants. I just wasn't expecting it. This comic banter went on for several minutes before it gave way to topics like sports, politics, life. What was that all about? And in time, the conversation took them off the porch and on a trek down the sidewalk that skirted the street. Needed the walk to stay warm. So, Grandpa, Ed, what was it you retired from? Worked at a refinery for 32 years, 32 mindless years. Hated every minute of it. There was this horn that went off every day. Tom Edwards had really wanted to be a writer. He told Mason so. He had even written the beginnings of a half-dozen novels, mostly westerns. It was his cruel self-criticism and the reality of raising a family that caused him to drop each project. He hadn't written anything in years. You're not too old to start up again, Mason told him. Look at Grandma Moses. You know how old she was when she started writing? Painting? What was it she did? Hey, it's your analogy, or metaphor. What would you call that? An example, Ed. Work with me here. A decade from now, you'll be walking down this same sidewalk on a Christmas Eve with some other granddaughter's date, and you still won't have a novel. Such a waste. Oh, yeah? Well, you're the one about to get a law degree, and you don't even want to be a lawyer. He didn't either. Mason was going through the motions for his dad. His dad longed for the day when Mason would be a partner in the firm. Problem was, Mason wanted to be a teacher. Wanted to teach English literature, if you can believe that. Didn't have the guts to tell his dad. Telling Ed had been so much easier. The two of them walked and talked for well over an hour when Ed noticed that they were on a cul-de-sac. He didn't remember any cul-de-sac in the neighborhood. He knew that they could eventually find their way back, but he was too pooped to go much further. He scolded Mason for not paying better attention as to how they got there. Mason refused to carry even a token of blame. He did come up with an answer to their dilemma, though. He actually borrowed part of the answer from Ed. Ed suggested they knock on someone's door and ask for directions. Mason thought that idea was unacceptable. Two guys late at night knocking on doors asking directions. They'd end up going home in a squad car. Nah, Mason suggested they go over to the third house on the right, the one with the lights and the big Ford parked in the driveway, and they would sing a Christmas carol. Someone would come to the door and surely ask them where they were from, and they'd answer, Pinewood. And the person would say, wow, Pinewood is 4 blocks east of here. Yeah, it's pretty lame, but Ed was too tired to argue. They didn't bother to come up with what song they were going to sing until they arrived on the porch of the third house on the right. Jingle Bells was not happening. Ed hated the song. Way overdone. Finally, they settled on Frosty the Snowman. It started out, Frosty the Snowman. Then it got crazy. Ed sang that Frosty was a fat old jolly soul. Mason called him a big old pile of snow. It wasn't working. They were dying right there on the porch. They stopped, looked at each other for a brief moment, and then both at the top of their lungs sang, Jingle bells, jingle bells. They kept repeating the first verse until Morris Fetterman turned on his porch light and opened the door. Fetterman lived in the yellow Victorian across the street. Mason and Ed waved big and then crossed over to speak with Morris. That was pretty pathetic, gentlemen, but it was loud. Unfortunately, not loud enough for the Buckleys, the sweet old deaf couple that lived there. Mason explained that they were not really caroling as such. Fetterman said, no joke. Ed went on to tell Fetterman that they had walked all the way from Pinewood. Fetterman said, okay. When asked if he knew where Pinewood was, Fetterman said, over off Ritchie, isn't it? Fetterman told the two weary sidewalk vagabonds to come inside for some wassail that his wife had just made, and then he would drive them back to Pinewood. Mason resisted, saying that they merely needed directions. Ed told his walking partner to be quiet, that he wanted the wassail, but he really needed the ride. Well, after a hilarious ride, Fetterman dropped Ed and Mason off at the corner of Cascade and Pinewood. Ed refused to be driven all the way to the front door of his house. He was feeling better after the wassail and ride. As they walked to the porch, Ed explained to Mason that the family was probably waiting for him to hand out the presents. Mason questioned the opening of gifts on Christmas Eve, but Ed told him they were gifts from the family, that they would open Santa's gifts the following morning. Mason tried to explain to Ed that Santa was really merely a myth. Ed told him to stop his silly talk. The two of them were laughing as they entered the house. They entered to the applause and hugs from the crowd and to stern looks from two of the women in the group. Allison was a bit perturbed that she had not been informed about the caroling excursion. Grandma Edwards was upset with her husband for making up such a stupid story. Mason was one of the few to leave the Edwards house that night. Most of the family would stay till morning to open Santa's gifts. Mason explained that Santa wouldn't know where he was, so, he had best get back to his place. Ed followed Mason and Allison to the porch. He told Mason to come back soon. He was stern about it. We're having a New Year's party, and we expect to see you. It will eclipse everything you witnessed here tonight. Ed told his granddaughter to see that Mason was there for New Year's. She seemed to need no coaxing. Mason told the old man that the next time he saw him, he expected to read his first chapter of his new novel. Ed told his young friend that life was too short to get a degree in something that he didn't really want to do. Told him not to follow his example or metaphor. They both grinned at that. After her grandpa went inside, Allison felt left out in the cold, both physically and figuratively. Mason told her that Ed and he were just having some guy talk. Allison asked why he called her grandpa Ed. His name was Thomas Edwards. Mason said he knew that, but Ed was what the semi-pro baseball players used to call him back in the day. Allison knew that her grandpa played ball, but she didn't remember any of the particulars. Before he left and immediately before the goodnight kiss, Allison apologized to Mason for what had to have been an agonizing evening for him. Mason told her it was the best Christmas Eve he'd ever had. It had been, too, but there would be others, as good and better, and they would be enjoyed right there in that house on Pinewood. Oh, and the New Year's party, Grandpa told the true story about the Christmas caroling incident, the story about brought down the house.
Babe, I think that story you based a lot on my family. I'm thinking about the multiple conversations going on.
So much, Kay, as you know, what is based on, everything I write is pretty much based on characters. Every fiction thing I write.
Yeah.
In your family, though, it was just, unlike in this story, Mason, I just bonded with your family from the very beginning.
You did. The first time you came over, Dad was fixing the washing machine,
Oh,
and my little brother Tracy came in his wheelchair, and I thought you liked him better than me by the time the evening was over.
Uncle Ray had the washing machine all over the kitchen floor. But actually, this being a Christmas time, we need to do a Christmas song before we get into something. Have you got something?
Oh, I have a great song picked out for you. And it's based on a Beatles song. So,
Son of a gun.
So,
I
Dick,
don't think I've ever heard this
load
because
it up.
it doesn't even sound familiar. Okay.
Hey, pod listeners, just wanted to let you know that due to royalty reasons, we can't play the whole song, but you can get it on YouTube and look up Bob Rivers, All You Need Is Elves. Thanks. Hey, babe, one of my favorite stories of yours was back from 2010, just called Christmas at the Tasty Freeze. I just love this story. People weren't exactly beating the door down to get into Frank's Tasty Freeze. The entire lunch crowd consisted of the Pomeroy family and Arnold Bounder. The Pomeroys were going to Jack's sister's house in Maypole for supper, and Jack thought they'd get some burgers for lunch before heading out. 4 combo meals, 1 foot-long chili dog, 2 Big Frank burgers, and 4 tacos. Not much of a Christmas fare, but the 4 Pomeroys seemed pleased. So pleased that both Pomeroy girls squeezed the bicycle horn before leaving. The horn was mounted near the door just below a sign that read, "Honk if you enjoyed your Tasty Freeze experience." At the sound of the horn, Ray yelled enthusiastic, "Yee-haw! Y'all come back!" "Would you please not do that today," Kate said. "The boss is not even here." "Do you think I enjoy acting like an idiot? Look, Frank told us to yell when we hear the horn. I don't ask why. I just do what the boss says. Wouldn't hurt you to do it now and again." "No, your yee-haw can stand on its own," Kate said. Ray gave her his raised eyebrow look and then imitated a detective he once saw in an old black and white movie. "Why, I ought to pound you." Kate couldn't hold back the laugh. She never could with Ray. Just didn't understand why that was. "Look, Dilbert, one more time. Tell me why you let the boss pressure you into working on Christmas." Ray ignored the comment and walked over to the booth where Arnold was staring into his coffee cup. Ray plopped himself down in the seat across from Arnold and looked hard at the guy. "Look, Mr. Bounder. Mr. Bounder, look at me. Please. Here's what you do. Let us get you one of the Santa ice cream cakes from the freezer. You take it home to Mrs. Bounder and the kids, and you just tell them you're sorry, that you had one of those sinking spells, but now you're all better." Mr. Bounder slowly looked up from his coffee cup and gave Ray a smirk. "Ray, you're a swell kid, but you have no idea." "No idea? Have you ever tasted a Santa ice cream cake? It's going to change your life. Once you take a bite of that cake, you can do nothing but smile. I'm not lying. It's a group hug magnet. And best of all, it's 50% off." Ray yelled across the room, "Kate, grab the Santa cake and ring up $8. No, make that $5. He turned back to Mr. Bounder. "I'm pretty sure Frank plans to let it go for $5 tomorrow." Arnold Bounder climbed out of his booth, handed Ray $5, and hugged him. "You are absolutely nuts, Raymond. Merry Christmas." Kate ran up with the cake. "Merry Christmas, Mr. Bounder. Remember, you're not alone. Things will get better, starting with the cake. The beard and the white part of Santa's hat are vanilla. Everything else is chocolate." Ray added, "And if there's any leftovers, you know where I live." Ray walked back to the counter with Kate following close. "So why did you agree to work today? What could possibly?" Mr. Bounder grabbed hold of the bicycle horn. "Honk, honk." Ray let out, "Yee-haw! Y'all come back." Arnold waved as the door closed behind him. There was the briefest of pauses before Kate gave Ray a slap to the shoulder. "Would you please not do that? Now look, answer my question." Ray tossed his dish rag across the counter where it landed in the sink. He gave the universal 2 fingers down sign for 2 points. He then opened the register and put in the $5 and added 15 of his own. Why did he volunteer to work on Christmas? Truth is, he told Frank that he'd work, but only if Frank could persuade Kate to help out. He saw it as an opportunity to be alone with the one girl whose company he most enjoyed. A girl who would never see him as more than a hometown friend. At least he would make a memory of the one Christmas they both shared. Ray was not aware if Frank had grasped the implication of his request, and for once he didn't care. It was indeed a step towards boldness. It was boldness born of desperation. He knew he would soon be headed for Angelo State to start the spring semester. He just finished his sophomore year at the community college in Childress, and he had only raised enough money for the spring semester at San Angelo. He'd figure out the rest later. "Look, Katie did. I've got no life. I live with my parents, who are, incidentally, headed to Vernon to visit Aunt Mary in the old folks' home. I love my aunt, but I can't take the home. Working Christmas gives me an excuse to miss out this year." Suddenly, the door of a 92 gray Buick slammed outside. Slammed twice. A nanosecond after the slams, 2 boys, 8 and 6, rushed in and headed straight for the restrooms in the back. The mom caught the door and meekly smiled as she entered. "Do you know how hard it is to find a restroom on Christmas Day?" she said. "I think you may be it between here and Dallas." "You're just about right," Ray said. "Can I get you anything?" The lady shook her head. "I'm sorry." She sat down at the table nearest the restroom to wait. Ray wrestled with the notion of pressing just a little. "So you got family in Dallas? That place is booming." She smiled and said, No, we're headed to Longview." I've got a brother there who's going to let us stay. Well, till things get sorted. I would have left earlier, but I had to work last night at the mall in Abilene. Wasn't that much business on Christmas Eve, but it was good to get to work. About that time, the two boys rushed out of the bathroom. Mommy, can we get something? The mom got up and told them to sit and wait for her while she went to the restroom. Don't move and don't bother anybody. As soon as she left, the boys obediently sat and stared at the ice in the field beyond the parking lot. Ray yelled over to them, "Hey, do you guys mind giving us a hand back here?" Ray and Kate were standing behind the counter, waving them on. The two kids exchanged glances and then ran to help. Minutes later, Mom exited the restroom to see her boy sitting on the counter trying to fill a napkin holder. Kate was giving instructions while Ray was making the burgers. "I am so sorry," Mom said. "Come on, boys, we gotta go." "Sorry, ma'am," Ray said. "I'm afraid the boys already placed an order." "Not to worry, though. They're working it off right now." The mom found herself somewhere between humiliation and extreme gratefulness. It's a thin line sometimes. Kate sensed the dilemma and handed her towel to Ray. "Finish up, big guy," she said. She led Mom to a booth, and the two sat and chatted. It was a good visit. Ray moved 2 tables together, and they all sat and ate burgers, onion rings, and fries, and washed it all down with malts and cokes. Ray and Kate weren't really all that hungry, but Ray thought the moment would be less awkward for Deanna, the mom, if they all shared a meal. Before leaving, Ray lifted Thad and Will up and let them each honk the horn. They all had to say, "Yee-haw, y'all come back," each one after each honking. Even Kate joined in. She never looked lovelier to Ray. As the Buick headed Dallasward, Ray walked over to the cash register, rang up the tab, and paid for the meal. Kate walked over and shook her head. "You're a real wonder, Ray Palmer. You know that? And how much did you slip into Deanna's purse?" "Hey, my folks and I agreed not to exchange gifts, so I had to do something." "Forget that. Now it's your turn to tell me why you decided to work on Christmas." "Oh, that's easy," Kate said. "I'm saving for college. Dad said he'd match whatever I can raise. Oh, and I knew he was paying double time, so I jumped at the chance." "You're kidding," Ray said. "He sure didn't make that deal with me." Kate shot back, "He did too. He told me we were both getting double." Ray smiled. Yeah, Frank had him figured out. "I'm going to Angelo State next fall," Kate continued. "You know, I might even get a scholarship." "I am sure you will. Every volleyball coach is looking for a good setter. I've noticed that you're pretty good. And I must say, you look strangely attractive in your volleyball shorts." "Strangely attractive? What do you mean by that?" Too bold, he thought. He looked like he was headed for Rejection City, so he ignored the question. "Look, kid, I doubt we get many more customers. Why don't you head over to your boyfriend's house? I'll fill out the timesheet for you. I doubt your dad will fire either one of us." "My boyfriend? You mean Corey?" Her laugh came out as more of a snort. "Really? You don't need me here?" Ray tried to sound persuasive. "Look at this place. We're a restroom with a kitchen." Kate nodded, walked behind the counter to get her purse, gave Ray a quick peck on the cheek, and headed for the door. "Merry Christmas, Raymond Palmer." She squeezed on the horn before leaving. There was no response from Ray, so she turned and gave him a questioning look. Ray smiled and quietly said, "Yee-haw, you come back." Kate shook her head and then got into her dad's old pickup and drove off. Ray walked over to the booth nearest the counter and plopped himself down. He placed his legs across the bench seat and leaned his back against the wall. Looking out the window across the room, he sat and stared at nothing in particular. He wasn't in his trance long before the sound of the opening door startled him out of his deep think. He looked up to see an exasperated-looking Kate. The girl walked briskly to the counter, tossed her purse behind it. She picked up her apron and strapped it on. With her hands on her hips and her weight shifted slightly to the right, she said, "Okay, Mr. Palmer, tell me exactly what you meant by strangely attractive." There were no more customers at Frank's Tasty Freeze for the remainder of the shift. Oh, Emily Bounder did bring over a plate of the leftover ice cream Santa cake for them. It was delivered with the hug. "It's the bestest cake we ever had," she said, then added, "Oh, and the hug was from Mommy." Kate and Ray sat across from one another in the booth and just talked. They took only a couple of bites of the cake, sharing the same spoon. At one point, Kate pushed the bowl to the side and reached over and took a hold of Ray's hand. Ray was pretty sure his heart might explode. The conversation never lagged, and the time sped by like a meteor. But then that's to be expected when two people share the best Christmas ever.
Kay, that you read that story better than I wrote it, I think. It was just, I've read it before out loud, and it just didn't resonate as well as it did with you. You did very well.
Well, I enjoyed reading it.
Ladies and gentlemen, by the way, we haven't even plugged our show. This is Hanging with the Hayters. You're listening again, and this is our Christmas show. And it is time, Kay, for us to take a break. And we're going to come back with another story and just a few comments about Christmas. And anyway, we'll see you in just, you'll listen to us in just a few minutes. Back in a couple.
Thank you for hanging with the Hayters with us today on our Christmas special. We've been reading some short stories, and we've got one more to go. This is another one of my favorites. We tried to pick out the ones we thought our audience would enjoy today.
You know, Kay, when you write so many short stories, I guess I got 25 Christmas stories, something like that, and I get characters. You've got just so many Christmas stories you can tell. And this one I was just thinking of, a single mother with a teenage son, some story about that. And that's how I came up with Charlie's story.
Charlie's Choice.
Charlie's Choice. That's exactly what it was. Anyway, take a listen. Charlie's Choice, December 2003. If she was 100 pounds heavier, a foot taller, and a whole lot meaner, Kate thought she might try to strangle Charlie. Just might. The thought alone is wrong as all get out, but it's the kind of thought that occasionally crosses the mind of a parent. Not yours, just most. Thing is, Charlie was a good kid. Not the best, you understand. The best was last seen on TV in the late 50s, early 60s. Name was Wally Cleaver. Charlie was Charlie. He couldn't quit being Charlie if you put a gun to his head. His mom would get angry with him and try to, take last night. Kate was trying to explain to Charlie why he could not go on the skiing trip to Cloudcroft. Yes, it wasn't going to cost much because the parents of one of the boys owned a house in Cloudcroft. Yes, the boys would be checked on and moderately chaperoned by the Milfords who lived next door. Yes, Charlie was 17 years old and had proved himself trustworthy in the past. But, and it was a big but, it was Christmas for goodness sake. And in light of the medical situation of the past couple of months, it was like possibly Grandma's last. Kate was emphatic. She could get that way sometimes. Grandma will be crushed if you're not there, Charlie, and I want you there. You and me are it, Roscoe. Please don't ask me again. I'm telling you, I don't want you to go. You are not going. Are you hearing me? Charlie looked as serious as O.J. before the verdict. The boy appeared near tears. Kate hated it when she had to put her foot down. She was always fair. She knew she was fair, but she still dreaded the tough decisions, the hurtful decisions, the ones Blake would have made without even giving it a second thought. Charlie slowly turned and walked into the living room. 5 seconds later, he came out to the kitchen with one of the coverings of the arm on the recliner draped over his head like a hood. He had his hands clasped in front of him. "Please, Mom, please let me go," he said in a mock whine. Kate looked up from the sink to see her son. Instantly, a smile broke out across her face. She tried to maintain her composure. "Oh, you don't, young man. If you think—" She started laughing. Then Charlie started laughing. Between laughing fits, she tried to speak. "You are not getting away," she began. "Oh, I just hate it when you—" She wanted to strangle the boy when he did stuff like that. Well, that's how it went that evening. When Charlie came home from school the next afternoon, the last Friday before the holidays, he came strolling into the kitchen, kissed his mom on the cheek, and said, "So, have you given any more thought to what we talked about?" "I told you I did not want you to go. Don't you remember?" "Well, I remember you saying it, but I thought maybe you had a change of heart." that you realized how I would not be missed at all since there would be a house full of screaming relatives all trying to talk at the same time? Aunt Lucy will be in a fight with Uncle Fred, and Margaret will want to show her latest tattoo just to see who she can aggravate. Mom, it would actually be better for Grandma if I visited her after the holidays. That way we can have more quality time. You know what I mean. You are such a little smarty. Well, I still don't want you to go. However, I called your grandmother this morning and explained the situation. She said, and these are her words, "Kate, if Charlie wants to go on that trip, you let him. I'd even go if I could. You tell him he can visit his grandma any time." Grandma said that? That's what she said. Well, that dear old woman, she really said that? So I can go? The nod didn't come with a smile, but it was an approving nod just the same. Kate didn't know if she'd done the right thing. It was easy, a thing for sure, but right is hard to know sometimes, most times maybe. The day before the long drive to Grandma's, from right out of the blue, Charlie let his mother know that he had decided to go with her after all. He'd forgot about Cloudcroft and spend the Christmas with the family. "Hey, it might be Grandma's last Christmas, you know," he said. Kate didn't gush over her son. She knew he hated it when she gushed. She did try to let him know how proud she was of him. He tried to fight off her hug. "Oh, Mom, please, just stop. Hey, look, you can buy me a car or something when we get back." Christmas at Grandma's wasn't half bad. Really wasn't. Margaret had no new body art to display and no apparent piercings. The gift exchange went well. You know, when the purchasing limit is set at $10, people learn not to expect. Kate got a Texans cap and Charlie got a large jar of cashews. After the gift exchange and when the grown-ups were all gathered in the living room, Uncle Earl asked Charlie if he was learning anything in school. Charlie thought for a moment and then said, "Well, as a matter of fact, we just finished studying about Mahatma Gandhi. Everybody knows about his passive resistance stance and all, but there were some things about his personal life that we learned. For example, did you know that Gandhi walked barefoot most of his life and that he ended up with thick calluses on his feet? And he was big into meditation, and he also fasted for weeks at a time. This made him quite weak and also caused him to have perpetual bad breath." Everyone smiled and seemed impressed. Uncle Earl mockingly said, "That's fascinating, Charlie." Charlie said, Yes, it is. In fact, today many people in India refer to Gandhi as a super fragile, calloused mystic hexed by halitosis." The laughter started sporadically, but caught on like a wildfire that swallowed the house. It was all in the delivery. Grandma never caught on to the joke, but laughed till tears came to her eyes. When things quieted a bit, Aunt Lucy said that she thought the joke a bit irreverent. Kate reminded her that Gandhi not only had great humility, but also possessed a winning sense of humor. "He would have loved the joke," she said. Lucy reluctantly agreed. Gandhi might have enjoyed the joke, but he probably would not have liked Lucy. It was mid-afternoon the following day when Kate and Charlie made it home. After unpacking, they met in the kitchen and both raced for the fridge and the last Dr. Pepper. Charlie won the grab, opened the bottle, and then handed it to his mom. She took a long swig and then handed it back. "Have I told you lately how much I love you, Charlie? How proud I am of you?" "Yeah, Mom, a couple of times around Corsicana and then once while we were just north of Huntsville." "Please, no more. We're getting way too close to having one of those Leave It to Beaver movie moments, Ma." "Well, I want you to know that you made your grandma very happy." "Mom, I didn't do it for Grandma. I did it for you." "I know you did, Charlie. I just wish your father were here to—" "Mom, I wish Dad were here too, but if he had been, there would have been no cause to be proud. Dad would have told me from the very beginning that I was not going to Cloudcroft, and that would have been it. End of story. You let me decide for myself. It's a lot harder that way. You really need to be more forceful, Mom. Don't worry, I'll make a good parent out of you yet." "Yeah, right. Hey, I tell you what, why don't we go rent a movie? You pick, grab some Dr. Peppers, get some popcorn, and have a movie night." "Okay, I choose Gladiator." No, please, Charlie, you've seen it 100 times. Why don't—" Charlie raised his fist in the air as if holding a sword. "When you see the signal, unleash hell," he screamed. "Hey, I don't want you talking like that. Mom, I'm just quoting Maximus. He was using hell in context. It's okay if you use it in context. Unleash hell! I don't care. You watch it, mister. You don't talk like that in front of your friends, do you? Hell no, Ma. Charlie instantly backed away from the slap his mom was trying to deliver to his shoulder. Young man, if I ever. Hey, Mom, I was joking. Sheesh. Can't you take a joke? He took a drink of Dr. Pepper and handed the bottle back to his mom. Hey, is it okay if I invite Brett and David for movie night? Brett? I thought he went to Cloudcroft. Well, when he told his folks that I had bailed out, they wouldn't let him go. He's pretty ticked at me. Well, I'll be. See how much people respect you, Charlie? Yeah, right, Mom. They just didn't know any of the other boys and figured they might be gangsters or something. That's not it, Charlie. They know that you... Mom, you're doing the Leave It to Beaver thing again. I tell you what, I wasn't going to bring it up, but some of the guys are already talking about going to Mazatlan for spring break. Mazatlan? What's a Mazatlan? Mom, it's a resort in Mexico on the Pacific side, surfing and wild women. You can forget that, mister. Well, shoot. I guess we'll just have to go to Fort Lauderdale then. Hey, we'll talk this up later. Right now, get the keys and let's go get a movie. Charlie, David, Brett ended up going to Galveston for spring break. They stayed in a beach house that Brett's folks rented. It wasn't Mazatlan, but the boys had a blast. Try to figure. By the way, Charlie's grandma passed away in June. Kate's fear proved true. It was her mom's last Christmas. She left behind 3 daughters, 2 sons, 14 grandkids, and 6 great-grandkids. One of the grandkids was Charlie. You'd like Charlie. Not perfect, but always trying to do the right thing. The kind of kid that gives old people hope for the future. Makes us think that perhaps this old world isn't going to hell in a basket. By the way, hell was used in context in that last sentence. It's okay if you use it in context, you know. That might mean something to you, but it wouldn't mean beans to my mom. She's a lot like Kate in that respect. The end. Anyway, there you go, Kay.
Well, Charlie made a good choice.
He did,
made his mama
he?
happy. He made his grandmother happy.
The guy was nicer than I thought he was. By the way, Kay, we have got to take another break. You are listening to Hanging with the Hayters here in downtown Conroe, Lone Star Community
Lone
Radio.
Star. Yes.
Back in a couple of minutes.
Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's community radio station, and we are looking for talk show hosts and volunteer DJs for our music shows. Are you interested in having your own talk show on Lone Star, or have you always wanted to live out your dreams of being a music DJ? With the addition of Conroe's FM 104.5 and 106.1 and video aspects of our talk shows, we are needing people to grow with us. If you or someone you know might be interested, please contact us online at irlonestar.com/contact us, or call the station at 936-647-5747 for more information.
All right, listeners, on our normal broadcast live, we actually had a couple of songs that we played, and right now we can't do that because of your copyright reasons. That's most understandable. What were the songs, by the way, Kay?
They were both Bob Rivers songs, and you can find them on YouTube. And it was "There's Another Santa Claus" and "Police Stop My Car."
Police stop my car. Police stop my car. It was very good
that
too.
will happen. With
yes. Kay, if they go online, they will see a bunch of Christmas songs that are. I don't know what you say. Somebody's made them funny.
Yeah.
And
depends what mood you're on. You're either going to think they're the stupidest things you've ever heard, or you think they're pretty funny.
Yeah, hopefully you didn't think this episode was the stupidest, but we tried to give you a sense of Christmas, and we thank you so much for listening to us now and
hanging with the haters.
Yeah, hey, and you might get on the next episode and take a listen. But right now, we just want to say thank you and goodbye. You've been hanging with the haters, and thank you for doing that.
Bye-bye.